Peace. Greetings. Let's give honor to Source and Creator for making all this possible. Just kind of want to give an early celebration to myself with my solar return being in a few days. It's truly like a milestone of, how did I tell it this way? A milestone like coming into being 30, 36 actually. The reason being, this is such a milestone. Let's give honor to the ancestors known and unknown. The reason why this is such a huge milestone, not my phone. A huge milestone is for the young men out there and for whoever is watching, you know, much gratitude to you to even be here. 36, 35 right now, but just at 30, the feeling of 36 is something that is truly a milestone. It's empowering because with so many stereotypes of believing like, you know, even taking on the narrative of others, believing like, you know, pushing on you, projecting onto you, that you wouldn't even live to see 18 or 21, simply because as a darker man, that was like the narrative in America. This fear naturally living with a mindset of death lingering, or having been concerned about people not wanting to see you do better or be better or to even be great at what you're doing, and it be attacked or it be scrutinized, criticized, whatever, just by simply being yourself. So big ups to all of you that have made it through another year, solar return, birthday, whatever you want to call it. This is so huge for me because, again, how I would measure success has nothing to do with monetary. How I would measure, there is no limitations. My nose is running as I'm talking about this. Y'all bear with me. Cold weather, boy. That shifting weather, my body's just shifting with it. Yep. But anywho, what's that saying goes? Thank Source we don't look like what we've been through. The beauty of all of this is the gratitude of me, where my perspective now would be so much of how if I had to say prioritizing my well-being through all of this and learning along the way, because I didn't have a blueprint that showed me that I had the imprint, but I didn't have the layout specifically from people who prioritized it. So now that being a priority, I'm honored to even share with you all, like, just this message of realizing how all the odds can be stacked up against you, and then you just literally miraculously, I just say I'm a miracle simply because of so many things that could have removed me from this physical vessel, or, you know, remove me from, trick me even out of my position of knowing my worth and value. So my different perspective is so many layers to it, as not just as a man, but the little boy inside of me, honoring that even more so, leaning more into the emotional aspect of how valuable my emotions are, my spiritual well-being, my physical well-being, who I surround myself with, what I associate with, what I prioritize, what I uphold, and, you know, knowing thyself through the process. So for the young men that watch me, that see this video, for the men of all ages, for one, maturity doesn't have an age. knowledge and wisdom doesn't have an age. It's more so of learning the process of, for one, not ever beating yourself up. I feel like if I were to beat myself up over things that I could not control, I wouldn't be creating content. I wouldn't be focused on days where I know I need to rest, instead of trying to forcefully put things out there to obtain this identity, or this, how could I say, this acceptance from the external world, or acceptance from people who never have met themselves as deep as I am. And that reminded me, especially for all of you out there, to remember that a child, a baby, never forces itself to just jump up and walk. A baby learns to become mobile, or to use its body to learn. And that's no difference what I've realized, like where I wanted things to happen a certain way, and in reality, I wouldn't rush anything. I wouldn't at all have no regrets, no shame and guilt around where I'm at, where I'm going, because I don't like to use the term fall in love, but I'm more standing in the power of who I'm becoming, standing in that love of who I'm becoming. And in that process, in that becoming, I reflect and have a lot of introspect on who I was, and through those processes. And even through those processes, I had to learn to embrace those very versions that I did not enjoy or like so well. So that gratitude, I would say what I prioritize the most now is gratitude. Gratitude for being able to see another year, to see another day, to see another moment, to be able to cherish it, cherish myself, cherish those, my kids, my partner, those who, just celebrate the simple things. And that is in so many different ways. Like, this solar return will be something that a deeper perspective, I would say, is what I feel like a lot of people don't prioritize more, is the tribal unit, the family unit, we can use that term, and what that consists of as you become more of coming from childhood into adulthood, but still balancing those perspectives or those versions of you, to not forget about the importance of not attaching yourself to the idea of what mother and father, the world, societal norms, and so many things at a certain age. Like, success doesn't have an age. My perspective, or what I feel, that you have to know that you are already successful in what you're doing. Your mindset has to change your perspective. I had a thought occur the other day where I just had something come up where I was telling myself, like, it may seem delulu to some people when someone can say, like, I see a perspective of people saying, oh, they're homeless. And that can be very much true. But the perspective of saying, I own multiple properties, I'm an international realtor, I'm a global property owner, so forth. And what that does is, like, it naturally sends this excitement for what's to come. And then through that process is integrity. That's going to take emotions. It's going to take a lot of things in that becoming this version. You know how many emotions you went through before you, imagine like a child and then into teenage and so forth. There's so many emotions I cannot account for. The beauty of it is that that the body keeps a score. So a lot of things that have come up for me, I realized, like, when I say I wouldn't change it, I have no shame and regret over how my progress, what we used to get in school, progress report. Well, think about it. The universe has a progress report on you. And if I had to say source saw what I saw, I don't like the grading thing, because it's like degrading in a way, because it really, for me, devalues the whole, um, the person's, the individual, not even just potential, but their livelihood, to even give them a grading scale. And I know some people may disagree, but it's to each their own. But it's more so like the encouragement around more than just superficial surface things, but the importance of the emotional well-being of that child, of that individual, and so forth. So for me, my progress report, if I had to give myself, wouldn't just be all A's. It, you know, it's just an honor. Like, I'm an honor student to the Creator, because of the consistency, the persistence of being able to balance where I know I need to rest, I know I need to relax, and then more so just knowing how I'm showing up and giving my all, my best. Even when I'm doing nothing, I'm still giving myself, that balance between giving myself that opportunity to relax, to sit in whatever I need to rest in. And so the overall thing for me, like, what's so important about coming into this new version of myself, at a point in time, I would be felt a sense of disappointment or dis-ease, because I would care too much, or at that time I would care too much about, oh, I was supposed to have this at this age, or I was supposed to be here, I was supposed to be there. And that kept me from the present. That kept me from, and that's why I value so much of gratitude, because it kept me from really focusing on the very important moment now, where I see the importance of how prioritizing my well-being has a ripple effect on everything around me. And so when I'm talking about societal norms of what and how a darker man is supposed to be, you know, my world, my universe is completely different than someone else of a different nationality, different experience, that's not of the living in the Americas, that's not you know, in a certain town, city, and so forth. So again, my reality is, I would always encourage people to find peace, or find, you know, in solidarity, or, you know, in not just in seclusion, but also being able to come to a place of peace and harmony within your situation. It's almost like being the eye in the hurricane. Everything around you is spinning, everything is shifting, even if you don't see it with your natural eye. But it's the calmness that I realized, like, after 35 years of, you know, this facing my own shadows, my own fears, and so forth, I can walk into life, or I can get up with a sense of knowingness, knowing that I'm okay, I will be okay. And even if it's not okay, I have to I can counter, you know, again, encouraging people to counter said thoughts, question everything, you know, that's a part of countering what comes in, or when people want to project and so forth. I'm even more shocked myself, because of how I used to be at a place where I will absorb rather than observe. So now I can say that that's where I'm at in a place in my life where I'm becoming more of the observer. And now there's times where I absorb, and that's most of the time when I'm dealing with my kids, because sometimes naturally we can take on their frustration, or their, you know, their emotions, because we want the best. And in that, I'm learning so much, like, how it's no different into adulthood and your inner child, where your inner child didn't know the best outcome. Or that's one of the most important things also that I can say that from my own internal growth, of my own personal growth, is focusing on the best possible outcome, even if it doesn't look like exactly what I may have mapped out. You know, the universe had other plans, or, you know, we get what we feel we assume we need, but I feel like Source gives us what we want. That makes sense. Oh, maybe the other way around. Like, we get sometimes we don't get exactly what we want, you know, but it's still, I feel like that has a lot to do with the attitude of gratitude. And one of the other things I will highlight is integrity for the young men. be the best version of you. And even in that, you don't have to have it all together. No one has it all together. I'm grateful to, when I was on taking a walk a minute ago, I envisioned myself like, if I had to, in my becoming, I will visualize, like, if I had to draw myself, I will visualize a little boy or a man building a home and like literally nailing a house back together. And it's like building that home back in myself, coming home to myself. And where I would say for the, like, in the last, especially 3-4 years, the decluttering I've been doing internally, from, when I say my shadow, I mean my subconscious fears, meaning that the very things that the childhood experiences all the way up until now, childhood development and so forth. I talked about arrested development, feeling imprisoned, arrested by, like on lockdown, by those very things I could no longer run from, or the very things that were traumatic in my upbringing. And, you know, a lot of us, what I would share with you all is that we can feel like we're locked down, or those things have literally been locked away. Or we can feel at moments arrested, like, you know, where we can find in a tight spot when it comes to these fears, or, you know, these traumas, some type of abuse and so forth. And then, you know, my guide to that experience, my personal experience, I've had to learn from myself. I had to learn through others who have had stories, who reminded me of how important it is to face these things, to even seek some type of support. And even in that support, I remind myself too also that some of those experiences were reminding me, hey, yeah, I guided you. Yeah, I was supposed to do that, but at the same moment, you still have to balance between, you know, going to yourself and balancing between interaction with people, because no one truly had the answer. That answer I was looking for has always been within me. The deepest clarity always comes from some type of emotional reaction, impulse, or response. You know, there's numerous of things where I told myself, I'm like, whoa, I had to meet that person, or self-discipline is a very vital part of self-love. So for me, I was like, man, oh. And even when you think you know something, it's still like a child, you know nothing at all. I'm still, even through my transition, if you've been following me, whether it be through experiences where I was living another place, the homeless experience, you know, all these different versions of me that I realized like that was just guiding me and leading me up to finding me more and more. And with that, the coming of with age, you never stop learning. So again, to you all, you never stop learning. I'm learning different things now. I'm still working on my approach, even when it comes to my children, my approach with myself. How do I approach myself when I rise up? Am I angry? How am I treating myself? I seen something, experience where I saw a child get angry, and, you know, and someone shared a post. It was saying, referencing how a child, when they get angry, they're still learning. They don't know how but to wail their arms, and they don't know how to, when they try to come up and play, their hitting is a way of like, I'm learning how to play, so this is my way. And it's so interesting because for me, what it brought up, I was like, whoa, if I would have learned this or read this years ago, you know, but due to divine intervention, I would have approached things differently. But again, everything happens in divine time. And so with learning that, I told myself like, whoa, it made me reflect on my experiences with people who also maybe in their childhood who were abused. And then I, you know, in my childhood had experienced people who were physically and verbally, emotionally abusive. And I'm thinking to myself, aha, these are people who, again, dealing with arrested development or childhood experiences, who never developed this part of maybe their brain, or who never developed this in their childhood, who never were shown, who never had that guidance. And so I was like, shit, wow, now that I know this, there's a responsibility. So to whom is given, much is required. So that's why I tell you, I come to here and share this shit with y'all, because listen, I cannot keep it to myself, because learning more about myself, my natal chart, my moon, astrology, things I would have never got into years ago. But as I start learning more and more about myself, I got excited about it. I get excited about sharing things, and unapologetically, because again, when you're dealing with being silenced young, you don't feel that excitement as you would, but it never leaves you, because I've had people say you talk too much or you do this, and in reality, too much was for them, but I had to learn to be enough for me. That's a whole nother thing, to where learning that you already are enough, you have enough. And when we're dealing with people who are inconsiderate of our emotions and did not consider their own, or did not have compassion, then again we have been groomed in society to believe that we shouldn't express. We should keep this within us. We shouldn't be ourselves. We shouldn't show up as ourselves every day, all day. And what that does is that I've also learned that in this experience, like, as you prioritize your joy and happiness, it can be very uncomfortable, because your light has always been there since you were a child. So now it's like, now you embody it even more as an adult. That inner child wants to play. It needs to play. It needs to interact with people who are in alignment with that. That's a message for someone. Your inner child needs. There was someone that telling me the other day, like, how they were getting excited for, an elder. She was getting excited for a date, and it was funny because she was like, I was nervous and this person was nervous, and I said, you know what? If I could share something, honestly, I feel like that's just your inner child, because normally when we hear dating and stuff like that, that's with societal norms, there's this emphasis around like monetary, and is this person can provide for me, or there's this perfectionism around how it's supposed to be. There's this forcefulness and so forth. And in reality, it's like, when you think about a play date, when you think about a child going into a place, and I expressed this to the sister, like, we don't go into things very childlike anymore, like our inner child. And what I mean by that is, like, due to the undevelopment, or due to the fact of a lot of our inner childs were never nurtured, or due to child development young, we were never nurtured and embraced. What has happened is we have grown a society where we're unconsciously around people who are not safe for us. And we also, through this process of being exposed so very young, we became unsafe, not only for ourselves, but we created an unsafe society. We didn't create a secure, let's just say that, secure society, where I highlight the inner child, because if we don't feel secure within ourselves, how is that going to reflect outwardly? Because then we prioritize our inner child, then we interconnectedness connects that to the children that we see. And so what ended up happening, I tell the sister, I was like, your nervousness, your excitement is because that's that little girl and that little boy. Even though you're in this adult body, you just want to have fun. But she also mentioned something, where she expressed to me she was in a very vulnerable state. And I had to remind her, I was like, you're in a very vulnerable state because where you are, what you're going through, and also because she was in the shelter. And, she had mentioned to me that her mother had passed a few days ago. And what I was picking up on energetically as an empath, I was telling her, like, I know you're in a very vulnerable place, and I know you want connection right now. You're not wrong for that. But protect your heart above all things. And again, the reason I say this, again, to my young men and women, whoever you are, we have, again, due to exposure when we were young, we have saw people who have overcompensated, overgiven, do so many things because we were taught to wear our heart on our sleeves. When our heart has been this detector of things that are not safe, things that are not love, because our heart reflects that. What's in the heart comes out the mouth. That's that self-expression. Love is a higher frequency, it's a vibration. So what we perceive as love, because we haven't had that deep connection or that wholesome connection to ourselves of loving ourselves, we have gained this perspective or this distorted, almost like imposter syndrome of what it means to obtain love in such a devaluing way, or in a very inconsiderate way. Because when we're not considering ourselves, we won't be considerate of others. So imagine, like, again, I was telling her, like, hey, be mindful. And for me, it was like mirroring back a father to a daughter, even though she was of, my elder. I was just reminding her, because as I start to love me more, as I start to be more secure, my video previously was telling us, like, the authenticity of living, we're living in authenticity or integrity due to growth of what I, from learning to master my mother wound and see myself, mothering myself, and then being able to see women, no matter their age, in a different light, literally gives me the opportunity to literally mirror back or to be honest. Because that's, again, what women are ruled by. They want honesty. And no matter how uncomfortable it is, they feel first. But that honesty literally brings up that emotion. But I had to remind her, almost like mirroring from a father to a daughter, energetically, I was like, I know you're vulnerable. You lost your mother. You're seeking some type of connection. And the reason I said this is because it shows a pattern that we naturally or unconsciously aren't aware of, to where we'll dive into something. And again, I just planted a seed. I wasn't saying, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. No, it's good to feel excitement. But what it is that's that inner child. That's that innocence that wants to connect. That's what human experience is. We want to naturally connect. And so what we have happened in the world is that we've been trauma bonding as a society. And now that the world is seeking connection again, this is always going to happen. It's just like people who are going into solitude, things that are slowing down. People have to go introspect. When certain things happen, whether events, natural disasters, this is a way of introspect for us as human beings, as people, to learn more. This is a moment to get to know you better. Your job loss, homelessness, anything is divine intervention. That's where you have to realize, it's like your loss is only to gain some type of knowledge through that experience. Then as you grow emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and then your body starts to change as you grow in age, you apply it. That knowledge that you gain is the wisdom. It's just like a child learning how to ride a bike. So I had to tell her, I planted that seed. But again, when we're talking about human interaction, when you're talking about the fact of you can tell someone something, it's just like looking at a woman but seeing a little girl. I know you're seeking connection, but I'm going to let you know, like, the possibilities, because again, we have been groomed so much not to give women honesty, because we have come from generations where our mothers had to manipulate. They were manipulated, and then they had to manipulate their way into feeling safe. Not secure. I said safe, because there's a difference. And let me tell you why. Security is more so stable. It's rooted. Safety is something like, I can offer you a safe home, but if you're not secure within yourself, then you will destroy that home. And that's from experience. I told my partner certain things that, like, this is just authenticity, this is experience. I can see how certain relationships never were stable because I wasn't secure emotionally. So it didn't matter if you gave me a mansion with 65,000 square feet, 20,000 acres, and so forth. If I don't have security within myself, emotional security, spiritual security, and so forth, that will eventually play out into the physical and how I treat the environment around me. So how I feel inwardly is how I would treat the environment outwardly. So when you look at society, when you look at individual, when you look at the collective and aspects of that, you're dealing with different parts of people and environments, again, generations who prioritize material security but never emotional security. So I'm as a millennium, I naturally, as carrying Scorpionic energy, through rebirth, the generation of Pluto and Scorpio, I have to be honest, and that had to start with me. And with that, it literally like sent a blazing fire over the illusion of what people assume stuff should be. And then I had to get to a place where I couldn't care so much about how they felt from it. And what I'm saying is like the unapologetic aspect of like giving the truth, and how the truth will, like they say, set you free. And you can be reborn through that. So I was expressing to her like, you know, I saw her go from, she was excited to like, oh, wow. And that's how we are, teachers and students, no matter what our age is and so forth. So with that, I expressed it to her like, protect yourself. And we don't realize like, it doesn't matter our age, we reflect back mother and father energy no matter who we are. And that's come from internal growth. We're teachers, we're guardians, we're guides naturally, whether we know it or not, we're guides. And even through unconscious like behavior patterns, where, let's say she could have had different experiences, but just by me being in the truth or living in that energy or that frequency, I have to let her know like, okay, when I said this to her, you have an opportunity to build a foundation upon truth and honesty. And she had mentioned to me, she was like, I told him that I was in a shelter. That's okay. That's fine. Protect yourself. Because, and here's an elder telling me like, she's not wanting to give up that sacred part of herself down there. And I said, you don't have to. These are honest conversations we have to start having with each other. You don't have to. You don't have to. And that's the same thing with me. Like I had to go through experience through my mother wound where I was like, bro, I have to learn now how to build things with women without feeling like I have to live out my sexual wounds that I used to have. Like I have to just have sex. No, I do not. Because now I see myself more sensual. Then I realized like I don't have to live out that wounded version. And I had to tell one of my bros, I'm like, bro, it's okay we all make mistakes. That's okay. It's about trusting yourself, and that's where the self-discipline comes in. When you like self-love is realizing it's okay. Some may say backtrack, but it's okay. I'm not gonna sit here like, oh, you went over here, you lay down. So what? You realize like sometimes you have to go through and realize and recognize a pattern more than once or twice. This is like looking at a child, be like, yo, I told you not to do that. Then you fall, boom, hit your head. Imagine we start to see adults like that. And I'm not saying the ones that we just like, we just know like they're gonna keep doing it. Yes, but we're talking about patterns here. When you're looking at the world, we're talking about consistency of behavior patterns, of narcissistic templates, foundations, control, manipulation, and so forth. So in shattering that illusion and breaking that narrative and creating a different narrative, I realize I have the responsibility, not just as a man, not just as a father, not just as the little boy inside of me, but it's even more powerful and encouraging to just simply walk in your truth and not be afraid and not to feel ashamed and guilt. No matter who returns or who try to project what. So what? So what? That's not who I was. That version of me, I keep at bay, just like I will keep you at bay or at distance. And that's the boundary. And so with that, you begin to develop healthy platonic or, business and so forth with people, because it ain't just starting with them, it starts with you. That's one of the biggest things that I realized, like I started accepting with my own internal growth. It's like, if I'm going to build on something solid and firm and rooted, it has to start with me. I have to look at my roots. I have to look at what I'm going through before I can sit here and go out there and try to fix, because naturally I feel like that's what men do. We want to naturally, logically fix or, but again, through the woundedness, I no longer feel the need to overcompensate. And that's the beauty of, learning more of where my value lies. core values. And that's the same thing like I express to the woman. I can't control what she does. It's literally my response. I don't have to accept and like what she does. I don't have to beat her up also, because I had to learn not to beat myself up over what I could not control. Like I love this lighting. So again, that's kind of my message for today. It's like I'm just sharing with y'all like the beauty of becoming. No one knows what a flower truly is gonna look like. No one knows. It's just like my hair. So I'll use my hair for instance. There's one video where I had all of my hair like on the side it was growing, you know, because again, so I did it myself. So I started plaiting my own hair, and I was like, oh, it looks good, you know. Then it was hot, like about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I cut the sides. And you know, some parts of this I start plaiting together because it's like 3 in 1. Then it start to look completely different. It's just like a flower. You're not going to look the same 15, 20 years. You're not going to feel the same in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, and so forth. Do you see where I'm getting at? Life in itself, I realize as I start to love the versions of myself, whether, you know, oh, I should have kept this or I should have did it. No, in actuality, I cannot go back and change that. I can just embrace it, and if I want to start over, I can. And that's another thing. It's okay to start over. Endings are just preparations for new beginnings. Whether, again, friendships, family, so forth. Oh, I just got clarity. Like, one of my greatest beginnings, I highlighted like the tribal unit, the family unit, is I had to experience the woundedness and dysfunction in what family was only for me to start something new myself. You see the beauty in that? Sometimes you have to see how people are with money to be able to rebuild your own monetary system in a sense of how you value yourself spiritually, spiritual currency, and how you value others. And, you know, that's the beauty of, again, it's in you, it's not on you. No matter how presentable I look, this doesn't hold my value. It just reflects my self-expression of what starts inwardly. You know, and I had to learn that even through, I had someone say, like, you don't look, at a time when they were like, you don't look homeless. What is homeless supposed to look like? Am I supposed to just, you know, anybody who knows me to the depths, I know me better. I've always took pride in how I showed up. And then what I would say is different this time. It's like I was more focused externally on how I showed up for validation of others. Now I don't give a fuck, because now it's like, even more so, I realized it was coming from a self-expression. When I was younger, it was coming from a place of insecurity because I wasn't secure. So now that, again, returning to the security aspect, we haven't built the nation upon security, genuine security, emotional security, spiritual, mental, and so forth. And the reason why that is because you will see more people who are stable. We're shifting into that. We're prioritizing that. Then you will be able to realize, like, it's okay to be bright, vibrant. You don't have to have the straightest smile. You don't have to have the best eyebrows, the greatest hairstyle. Your self-expression starts within you. That's a priority first. That's been one of the most biggest things, where me being able to smile and be joyous through whatever experience there is, and no one determines that. I don't give people the power to determine that. That's what the world that is shattering the illusions that are falling away is because we allowed others to govern our fucking happiness, resources, experiences. Now you take back your power. That's one of the greatest things I realized in my experience, relationships, business, and so forth. I took back my power. If I wasn't happy with it, if I wasn't satisfied, I didn't have to feel shame and guilt. It didn't have to be painful. I just realized it's not for me. I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. So take care of yourself. Love on yourself. Self-discipline is self-love. It's not about being perfect. It's about just being you. That don't come with a price. But you're seeing the world crumble right around that, because they have to keep up this narrative of being something that they're not. Imagine that. How long you gonna keep doing that till you burn the fuck out? Being you, spiritual currency, being you has never come with a price tag. I'm not saying go out there and that, like, now if you want to live a life of luxury and so forth, I'm not saying you have to sell yourself short or devalue yourself in an abundant in an abundant universe or an abundant space and so forth. No. Create your life on your terms. And surround yourself with people who also do the same, who honor that, who loves themselves, who, even through their process, you have grace for them. Have grace for yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.